This is Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust today this will be like a vitamin or supplement for your mind and heart. And wherever you receive podcasts, if you could please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, leave a rating and a brief written review. It will enable other excellent people like you to be able to locate this podcast. And please subscribe whether you're on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, Podbean, anywhere where you can locate podcasts, you'll be able to find Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom. Today I want to talk about productivity essentials. One of the things that I think happens is when you find or meet or know or maybe are related to a very productive person, we almost feel like that is something they were born to do, or will fall in the other category, just think, they're like robots or machines, and mere mortals cannot work that way and do all of those things. But regardless of where you are, you can boost your productivity. And I'm going to give some suggestions today, but they aren't necessarily that I don't necessarily want you to try all of them. But as you listen, you'll find one that speaks to you and where you are and what you can do and maybe resonates with you. And when you locate that or find that, then that would be the ones that you need to pick up on. But let me start before we get into that with just some kinds of things you're going to have to be on the lookout for, and some of the challenges in life that keep us from being as productive as we can be. The first one is the big bugaboo, and that's procrastination. There is the human tendency to procrastinate. A lot of times it's a way to deflect when we're uncomfortable with what some next steps or actions we have to take. Procrastination infects things both small and large. And the problem is, just because we ignore it, just because we go and do something else or try to put it out of our mind, it's always right there in the back of our mind, nagging us, challenging us. And so these productivity essentials, some things that you can do, will be the counterweight and the counterbalance to procrastination and not giving into it. Another thing is, we all find it easier to do things we really like and enjoy. So that's why it is crucial to really enjoy what you're doing. But there is one major word of caution I need to give all of us, and a reminder for most of us, and that is, regardless of what your vocation is, there are parts of it that are not fun. As a matter of fact, nearly everyone listening today has aspects of their responsibilities that are rather boring. There's nothing about it for which we get excited. But the reality is, it must be done. It has to be done. It needs to be done. And so productivity essentials, doing some things that we're going to mention here, will help you to just buckle down, do the boring, do the parts of your responsibilities that you don't care for. That's whether we're talking about keeping our home going, that's whether we're keeping things going at work, in our own lives. There are just certain things in life that we aren't as enjoyable to us as other things are, and they're even boring. But we have to do them anyway. So we'll find some productivity steps that will help us with that. Another thing that the productivity essentials will help you with is staying motivated and energized. Because once we get kind of thrown off base, thrown off kilter, something arises that we hadn't foreseen, it's easy to get demotivated. It is impossible to be 100% motivated 100% of the time. It's impossible to be energized every moment of the day. Our energy levels spike, fall and rise. And the other thing that productivity will help us with is the need to focus and finish. There are lots of people who can't get started, but one of the things that I've noticed a lot of that you don't hear as much about is there are a lot of people who are great starters, they're great enthusiastic beginners of something, and then as their motivation wanes, as their energy wanes, they just sort of ignore it, move on to the next thing. So it's not only important to learn to focus, but it's also important to finish. And so if you want to be a highly productive person, you're always going to be a work in progress. You're always going to be on the lookout for ways that you can improve your effectiveness and your efficiency. There are always going to be fits and starts and stops, and once in a while, periodically, we'll get off the rails because of what's happening in our life. Some of it that we could have avoided, but some things are just unavoidable. So don't beat yourself up, but let's listen to some of these things that we're going to describe today, and then you can find the ones or the one that resonates with you and what you should do. So let's begin. One of the first things that we're going to talk about is focus. And focus has been the subject matter of entire podcasts before on Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom. But right now, I'm going to talk about a specific type of focus, and that is focus on what your most important tasks are. And you can't wait for the moment to make that determination. For me, the way I do it, you don't have to do it this way. I'm merely making a suggestion. The night before, I look over what commitments I have coming up, especially the next day. If there are meetings or appointments or deadlines for particular projects, then that helps me to determine and factor in what are my 3 most important tasks. Now, I have more tasks to do in a day than 3, but I prioritize it that says no matter what happens, if the world really suspends business as usual and my whole life is totally turned upside down, these are the minimum 3 things that I must do. And you alone can determine that. It can't just be low effort, low important items. It has to be items that are moving you, the projects, your life forward, not only forward, but toward your goals. Cal Newport wrote a book called Deep Work. I would recommend it to you. But there are going to be times, if you're going to be productive, that you need to block some time out in your schedule. And that you'll just need to really sequester yourself away. Whether it's 20 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, or 2 hours, you'll have to determine that, in which you just dive into the deep work. There are some things that just have to be done, and they're challenging, and at times they are difficult, and they are more than likely time-consuming. They don't have maybe even a lot of excitement associated with doing that work. That's why you have to focus and say, I have to pay now and play later. I have to do the work now, and then later on, if I do this hard, important, deep work right now, then later on I can do some things that are much more fun for me to do, or things that I'm excited about. And the only way I know to do it is to put it on your calendar, absolutely essential. Block the time out, get away from distractions, put your head down, and really get the work done. I think you need to stay distraction-free would be another thing that I'd say, especially when you're doing deep work. That's a time to turn off all of your electronic devices as much as possible. Put your phone on airplane mode. If you're not working on your computer, either put it in sleep mode. Get somewhere where it's quiet. Now, I know some of you like to use music. Some of you like white noise through a headphone. It doesn't make any difference. Whatever is going to help you in your environment to be more efficient. Now, there are all kinds of time management tools. You need to find the ones that work for you. For a while, I was using Nozbe, which is Nozbe, which is one of my favorites. There are aspects of that are built on what is called the Eisenhower matrix, of which what's important and urgent and all of those. This really isn't the place where I'll have more specific and have had more specific ideas of those kinds of time management apps and programming. But what you need to do is you need to find one. Now, even though I have one, I'm always on the lookout. Is there something that will be even better for me? But whatever it is, you need to commit to it for a while and make sure that you are working on the things you have determined. Have you ever done a Pareto audit on your schedule and your life? Mr. Pareto was an Italian economist who basically came up with that 20% of the work produces 80% of the results. And we have discovered that that pretty well bleeds through and over into every field of endeavor. 20% of a person's investment portfolio produces 80% of its results. In the not-for-profit world where I come from, 20% of the people produce 80% of the results. 20% of the donors produce 80% of the results. But it's also true in the area of our efforts. There is about 20% of your time that will make a difference in about 80% of what you get done. You need to discover what that is and not leave it to chance. What are the areas where you really are being productive? Recreate, reassemble it, and begin to understand, is it because I'm fresh? Is it because of the way that I'm working? Is it because of the subject matter? Really, really discover that. One that is essential for productivity is you have to break your task into smaller pieces. That's why to-do lists are so overwhelming for most people. They put projects and long-term goals there, and when you come to it, if you're a little bit fatigued, if you're a little bit overwhelmed, you're just stuck. It's not enough just to throw a big project onto your to-do or your task list. You have to spend some time, and this would be one of those blocks of time on your calendar, in which you reverse engineer and figure out what are the next steps. Nothing more than a next step or two should ever be put on your task list. So when the time comes to do that, you're not overwhelmed with what am I supposed to be doing? You will automatically know the things you're supposed to do. Even if you're using a Pomodoro timer, even if you are working in blocks of time, do not neglect taking breaks. Whether it's for coffee, for personal rest, to return calls, whatever. You can't just work unabated without taking a break and relaxing in the moment. I am a big believer that many people are suffering from decision fatigue. So as many of your decisions as you can pre-make, therefore in the moment you won't have to. I lay out my clothes the night before. I get everything ready that I'm going to need in my briefcase. I do lots of things where I make the decision ahead of time. So in the moment, that decision's already made. I don't have to think about it. I keep moving ahead. I do the same thing with my schedule as much as possible and many, many other things. I automate as much as I can in my life, my banking and so on, for bill paying, so I don't have to make decisions, though I have predetermined them. I think one thing you ought to do, I don't know how often it's necessary to do, but look at the inefficiencies in your life. Communicating. Are you adequately communicating with others? And I am always on the lookout for what are the shortcuts that I can find, that I can implement in my life. I try to do an audit on bad and good results and experiences, because nothing is a waste if you learn something from it. Always make contingency plans, at least in the back of your mind, when things go wrong. And let me give you a newsflash. Things continually go wrong. Things do not always work out as you think they are going to do so. Set a time that you're going to get up and go to work and get things done. Don't wait till you feel like it. Don't wait till you get motivated. Work even when you don't feel motivated. Even start something before you feel ready. Make sure that you recharge, that you spend time with your significant family members and other folks. Make sure you're managing your energy, that you're getting proper rest, relaxation, take vacations, guard your time off, spend your family time. And also remember that you're not going to be able to do everything that comes. There are some invitations you're going to have to say no. There are even some good things you're going to have to say no to, because you cannot keep piling on more on top of what you're doing without indeed letting something go. I don't know which of these productivity essentials resonated with you. But I'm hoping that today you heard one or two that you're thinking about implementing in your own life that will make you much more effective, efficient, and you can do these things. You've been listening to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust today this was like a vitamin or a supplement for your mind and heart. Wherever you receive podcasts from, would you please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom? Leave a rating and a brief written review. It will help other excellent people just like you locate this podcast. This is Dr. Ron saying to you, my leadership friend, you are doing better than you think you are. You really are. And until next time, this is Dr. Ron saying, have a great and blessed day.